Hotshot. It's Jess with Emotional Fire Academy, here to talk about how to have the best birthdays ever as a highly sensitive person. Subscribe to my channel if you are an HSP ready to make your life incredible, maximize your sensitivity, and just up-level your thoughts and stories and feelings and therefore emotions. That's what we do on this channel. Welcome to Emotional Fire Academy. I'm Jess. I'm a former firefighter and master NLP practitioner. So, yes, this topic is really interesting. It's very fascinating because this seems to be a point of particular contention with highly sensitive people. I always see in the Facebook HSP groups people complaining about having disappointing birthdays. And we're going to talk about some things that may be obvious, maybe not so obvious, and how to remedy them so you can have incredible birthdays, because it's your birthday. You should not feel disappointed on your birthday, I believe. I feel like you should be celebrating your existence. So we're going to talk about this stuff. And again, as with all of my videos, I talk from personal experience. I have been there, done that on all of this, and I suffered from this too, where I would build up my expectations, and I was doing some certain things and carrying some certain stories that would always lead to disappointment, and how I eliminated that so that I could move forward and have incredible birthday celebrations. So, the first thing I want to do is reassure you that I'm going to start at the bottom. If you're willing to think differently, you're going to have a different experience on your birthday. So if you're willing to think differently, it's one thing to know the things that I'm talking about, but when you actually implement them, you really implement them. You bring them on board in your cognition, you will see different results. I guarantee you, if you're actually doing the work. Because there's a difference between, thinking something is a good idea, but then actually believing it and acting from it and incorporating it. So when you do that, you're going to see the changes happen. I found that too. So the first thing I want to talk about is loaded giving. So this is, again, when I read a lot of the stories about people who are disappointed about their birthday, the narrative goes something like this. I give and give to everybody else on their birthday, and then when mine comes around, nobody does anything for me. And I feel disappointed, and now I don't even want to celebrate my own birthday because that disappointment is now an expectation every year that I'm going to be disappointed and let down. So this is coming from a place of loaded giving. What we do when we give, giving is a really interesting thing because, and there's giving and there's standards. So when you're giving in a loaded way, right? It's because you perceive that there's a standard of this is what I should do. This is what I should do. When someone's birthday, we should celebrate, right? There's this narrative of a rule. It's like a cognitive rule. It's a standard that maybe your family upheld or that you learned from somewhere, or you just think is best practice, right? And so you hold yourself to this standard and therefore you act from it. And that was I used to do that too. I used to be like, oh, it's that person's birthday, we have to celebrate with them. And so even on an energetic sense, you're not really completely showing up because you want to, right? There's a difference between showing up because you feel like you have to do something and you want to do something. And this can apply to, any type of relationship. When you're giving out of, okay, this is just how I feel like I should act. You're not fully present, like you're doing it out of obligation. And so, but then you're expecting that the other person is going to stay at that same standard and do it for you. And you're expecting to receive that in return. So this type of giving, it's a very subtle difference. So when you switch, when you can detach from that and be like, I want to give to someone because I want to celebrate that person. I want to celebrate their life. And so on their birthday, I'm going to acknowledge them. This person really means something to me, and I don't expect that back. I am just, it's very present, focused, spontaneous in the moment kind of feel, as opposed to this blanket expectation rule, like this is just what we do on birthdays. There's if you can feel the difference between those two, and shift into, okay, I'm giving because I like to give. It makes me feel good to give, and it makes me feel good to celebrate this person and give to them. That kind of giving is much more conducive to them than reciprocating back to you. And this is coming from, not only like a physical, like just because they're going to feel that you're really showing up for them, but also, from a manifestational point of view, because you're like, I like to celebrate people that I really love, and so that kind of sets a new standard where, again, you're doing it from a place of really wanting to do it for the pure act of doing that, instead of from a rule-based expectation. This is what I do, this is what I expect it to be reciprocated to me. Because unfortunately what happens then is a lot of the people that operate from that rule-based, giving, then are like, okay, well, this is what's going to happen for me. And then when it doesn't, that's where the disappointment comes in. Is like, well, no one else is having the same expectations and thus meeting the need for them when it's their birthday. So, and this creates this power dynamic. And unfortunately what happens, and why there's disappointment, there's going to be disappointment if the person who has been doing the giving then is not giving to themselves. So they have put other people's birthdays on this pedestal of this expectation and the standard, but then their birthday, they kind of sit back and they're like, okay, I'm ready to receive mine. And there's this power imbalance, right? Where the other birthdays have been prioritized and paid attention to, and their birthday is not prioritized and paid attention to by the person who's having the birthday. So it sets up this weird power dynamic where then, sitting back and expecting something, but not showing up in the same way for yourself. So we have to really, if we want to have an amazing birthday, if we want that high standard of like, I show up and celebrate the people who really mean something to me. Well, what about you? Do you celebrate and show up for yourself because your own birthday means a lot to you, So you kind of have to give, just like you would show up for the other people, you need to show up for yourself in the same way. Because when you don't, then you're kind of saying, well, I'm less than. Like, I'm not giving myself the same treatment, at least that I've got given to other people. I'm making myself less than. And this comes down to, like, this worthiness. That's actually kind of a worthiness issue. Like, I'm not worthy of giving myself the same things that I give others, of showing up for myself in the same way that I show up for other people. And it's easy to forget this. I'm not judging you or pointing a finger if you have done this in the past or are doing this now, because I did the same thing. It's almost like this invisible, like, we forget. We're just like, oh, well, other people are going to do that for me. And they just might not have these same expectations or standards that they're used to, that you are used to. That doesn't mean they don't care about you, and that doesn't mean that they're not going to show up for you. It's kind of this weird way that we forget about ourselves, when we give in a loaded way. And so that was for me when I made that shift of like learning how to give from a purely giving state, to give for the joy of giving, the joy that it brought me, without the expectation of getting back. And giving to myself in the same ways, with the same degree of generosity. Give to yourself as generously as you give to the other people, if not more so. Give to yourself more generously. So some of the things we want to keep in mind, again, step into that sense of worthiness that doesn't allow you to have a disappointing birthday. Be like, I am worthy of having an incredible birthday, and I'm showing up for myself in the same way, or even more so than I show up for other people. If I have been giving to others, I'm going to give myself at least that much, if not more, on my own birthday. And that might mean, planning your birthday and telling people, hey, I'm going to have a party. I want you to come to it. And then even if they don't show up, even if no, I've seen instances where, in the messages where people are like, I planned a birthday and nobody came to my birthday party and I was so devastated. Refuse to have a crappy birthday. Don't just roll over and be like, oh, that's it. Refuse to have a crappy birthday. This is the celebration of your existence, of your life. Be like, okay, I'm just going to call people on the phone that night. I've had birthdays where I've done that, and they've been really special, where I was maybe away from all of my friends, and I just called them on the phone, like one by one. I just called a bunch of people I hadn't talked to in a while, and it was really special because, like, I was reaching out to them. I also love to spend time with my mom, because it's kind of a thank you for giving birth to me. Thank you for going through that process and bringing me into creation. So there are other ways, even if nobody RSVPs to the party, it's okay. It's okay. Refuse to have a crappy birthday. Come up with plan B, C, D. Have all of these plans in place where you're like, I'm just going to go to the next one. I'm going to, and if you have a story that it's only a legitimate happy birthday for me if everybody shows up for me, that story, when we talk about insecurity, we don't want to add to that rock pile. Because if we make that story more important and more legitimate, then, I am worthy and amazing, and I'm going to have an incredible day no matter what happens, what circumstances happen. Like, that's the story we want to add evidence to. So you can look at no one RSVPing as like, okay, something even more magical and amazing is going to happen to me today. And then going out in the world and doing the things that you want to do. Go shopping, go to your favorite place to eat and have dinner, treat yourself to whatever you want to do. Go to the spa, take a bubble bath, whatever you enjoy, go do it. And in having this point of attention that today is going to be incredible no matter what happens. It will be incredible, and you're going to have all these surprises kind of unfold naturally. If you have this, like, everything that happens to me today is going to be meaningful and amazing. You're going to find meaning in these little things, these little surprises, these little synchronicities that then are so rich and deep and amazing that you're going to be like, yeah, this is, that you didn't plan, that the universe just kind of brought to you because you had that perspective, because you refused to be disappointed and sit home and just be like, oh, nobody came to my party. Like, oh, I embraced the spontaneity of this day instead and enjoyed every moment. And so, so I've given you some examples of how to kind of transcend any circumstance, transcend the circumstances of your birthday and be more determined internally to feel amazing, to celebrate yourself, to feel amazing, to feel worthy, to feel loved, to feel the things that you want to feel on your birthday. Like, that's an internal job, you feeling the things that you're feeling, regardless of circumstances. And embracing that personal nature of birthdays, because you came into the world screaming, naked, disoriented. There was lights and stimuli, and you didn't really know who was who. Did you even have a concept that you weren't alone? It kind of felt alone. Like, there's an aloneness in that, being the only one who's experiencing from that point of view in that moment, right? The rest of the adults in the room had already had many, many years on you, knew what was happening, were doing their own things, had their own roles. You kind of came into it, even though there were people around, you came into it in your own perspective. And you're going to go out in your own perspective, right? You have to go through the death process alone too. We all do. And so this celebration of, like, each of your years, is really this deeply personal, like, coming in and going out on your own and embracing the beautiful, like, that sense of self, your sense of self, celebrating the compactness, your container. How much love do you have for you and for being you and you alone, And I was thinking about that earlier and wanted to share that thought, and just that depth, that's really deep, you know? And relationships are very important in life, but also our relationship to ourself, the sacredness of that. And also, you know, don't forget you have the power of your imagination. Even if you're trapped in COVID and you can't really see a lot of people for your birthday, you have the power of your imagination. And I put out a video a few weeks ago called Do This and Get Everything You Want as a Highly Sensitive Person. I recommend checking that out. I will put the link above. And it really talks about giving yourself emotionally what you want. So if you want to spend a crazy, wild birthday in Aruba, you know, like, go there in your imagination and feel it real, and feel the sand in your toes and the sun on your skin, and you're bronze and you're wearing your bathing suit, and there's all these people and you're partying with your friends, and, you know, you can give yourself the satisfaction of that experience without, you know, inside of your consciousness, and have it feel as real as, you know, even if you were there doing it in person. And the beauty of in your imagination is you can make anything transpire. It can be just as perfect and ideal as you want. And so, yeah, that's also another, you know, and that's not about being delusional. It's about giving yourself the emotional experience that you're looking for. And that's important. Like, on your birthday, like, give yourself the emotional experience that you're craving, that you want, that you're desiring, because this day, your birthday, is about treating yourself. Treat yourself to that. Why deny yourself? You have this, like, you know, wonderful, creative, imaginative power. Like, utilize it for your satisfaction, your emotional satisfaction. So, just some ideas, some thoughts to help you have the best birthday ever. And again, it's more about just committing to refusing to have a bad birthday, you know? Stand in your own, give to yourself, give generously, and you'll find that the world then, you know, because the world is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, the world's going to then reflect. And you know, you're going to start to have surprise parties. People are going to start to show up for you like that. It will be reflected when you take this stance and you're willing to think differently, to have a different experience, and love yourself more, and really stand in that and give to yourself and make that your standard. Other people will show up in that way for you as well, and then it will just come automatically, and you'll get, in loving yourself that much, you're going to get what you've been craving outside of yourself. And even if you don't, you're still going to be okay. That's the big thing. Even if you don't get that, if that doesn't happen, if circumstances don't go your way and everything, it's a rainy, drizzly, crappy day, you're still going to be amazing. You're going to be happy and loving yourself and just embracing the adventure of that day and enjoying it and savoring it for what it is. So, comment below. Say, comment, I'm ready to have the best birthday ever this year. I know I am. I had an amazing one last year, and I followed all of these steps I just told you. I dropped the loaded giving. I brought the power dynamic back into balance. I made myself a priority that day and had amazing, amazing day. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you are a highly sensitive person who is looking to make these huge leaps, and how you're feeling on a daily basis, in your rituals, routines, traditions, in your goals, you know, I can help you with that over my 3-month one-on-one coaching program, my Flammable to Fireproof program. Check that out at emotionalfireacademy.com. The information's below in the description box. And thanks for watching. Have an awesome birthday in 2021. Thanks for watching. Bye.